All right, welcome back, friends. It's the Soul Material Podcast, the podcast you cheer for, the channel you cheer for, and we're back, still going with season 5, and we got a new episode for you. So I'm T Mark, the Street Shark.
And the OGEO, welcome back. Peace to you. Welcome back to the Soul Material.
All right, yeah, we're giving you that clarity over popularity, just as we normally do. So this time we just wanted to give another official salute, all right, to Carmelo Anthony. All right, so we got Hall of Fame status, first ballot Hall of Fame. So when he retired, we showed him some love, but it's Hall of Fame, so we got to keep the party going. Talk about we got some Baltimore DMV roots, Syracuse national championship, going to the league. V number 15 over at the in Denver, going to the to the Knicks and all the other rest of his part of his journey in between. So salute. We gotta go 3 to the Dome. 7 p.m. in Brooklyn. Podcast, all that, everything else in between. This episode is dedicated to Carmelo Anthony. Salute. So I'm just kicking to the OG. Talk a little bit about how his legacy, what it means to you, whether college, NBA, this is the perfect basketball story, and how it impacted you, and just, some signature moments along the way. We love telling stories and peeling back layers over here at the Soul Material Podcast.
Definitely, T Mark. Well, first and foremost, man, I'm kind of feeling old because we both have followed Melo and been a fan of Melo from grassroots since the Oak Hill Academy days, like literally. And having a couple of people and homeboys at the time that played against him in high school, I was told verbatim, I'll never forget that my boy said guarding him was like guarding a grown ass man in high school. So for all the basketball junkies out here, back in the day, the man child was Kenya Martin. You talking about Cincinnati, Kenya Martin, that New Jersey Nets, Kenya Martin. He said that Melo was Kenya Martin like in high school. And he said it was just hell defending him and trying to guard him. And from that point, I started to follow very, very closely. And I don't think that Melo gets the respect even now, all these years later, of what he did at Syracuse. Because you have so many players that either had, I'll say, elite teammates and elite teams, like a Grant Hill, like a Larry Johnson, or you have folks who were really, really special, like a Glenn Robinson or Jamal Mashburn, like going back into the history of where even this year, Cooper couldn't get it done. And Zion Williamson couldn't get it done. And Melo got it done. And no harm to his teammates. I'm a Kendrick Warren fan, but I'm sorry, Hakeem Warwick fan. But Syracuse was not a top 5 team once he was recruited and committed and that preseason poll like nothing. And what he was able to do at Syracuse was special. And if you ever have the opportunity to just go back and look at those tournament games and his leadership and just the flair and the style and the poise and the professionalism, like everything was just there. And watching him win that championship, man, meant a lot to me because I'm like, yo, this guy is it. And then, of course, him being a part of one of the most special drafts of all times. People lie, numbers don't. That top 5 in that draft, man, he was part of that elite class with LeBron, with Wade, with Bosh. Great draft. And from there, it was Melo time going to Denver and so forth, man. But this is very special to me because I had the opportunity to see it from literally from the beginning to the end. And the big thing with Melo, I definitely appreciate and enjoy. Shark, now just pass it back to you. So I'm going to leave a couple marks for you. The maturity and the growth of Melo, man, just as a man and a human being overall, man. I got the chance to see like a cat from Baltimore really evolve, and he never cheated the game. I know we said it about Allen Iverson, we said it about a few players, but quite sure that Melo never cheated the game. He's one of the top scorers, not just in points, but I'm talking about as far as moves, as far as his intellect, as far as his intelligence and EI of the game. And him on that wing, him on like it's certain things with the Melo game that I think he really not necessarily made, but he definitely evolutionized that he didn't get the credit for as far as how he played the game before the 3-pointer just became a ting ting. That mid range game or going on that baseline, it was over. It was over if you was defending Melo, no matter who you were, what size you were. And I appreciate that about his game the most. I don't like how he was treated during the latter his part of his career. But in the NBA, unfortunately, for a lot of our legends, that happens. So it's almost like we don't even look back at those times for real. We look at any legend who played for 2 or 3 additional teams in the latter part of their careers. It doesn't hurt their legacies at all, man. So shout out to the Melo and the only Melo. When you say Melo, there's only one Melo you're talking about, and that's Carmelo Anthony Shark. So pass to you, man, to talk about more about spots, your favorite moments and so forth. But I know you've been there from the very beginning as well.
Oh, definitely. And just seeing that from Oak Hill to Syracuse, I actually played against the point guard of that Syracuse team, Billy Elam. All right, because he went to DeMatha and then went
Mm-hmm.
to Oak Hill as well. So I caught a little bit of him in high school as well, and we had some battles. But so that's actually more of the reason why I was looking at Syracuse. I'll be honest with you. So I was looking at Syracuse early in the season only because I was looking at my ops and just seeing what they were doing. And then I was just like, who is this dude? Like, and then I started, looking around. I was just like, oh, this the cat from Baltimore they was talking about that went to, and I was just like, oh, like, okay, so what's he about? You know what I mean? And then when I saw their team, I watched a couple games during his freshman year, and I was like, oh, these dudes, because Jim Boeheim. I've always had an affinity for Syracuse and for the longest time, and Jim Boeheim, and that was perfect harmony. The way that they ran their zone that year, that 2-3, that infamous 2-3 zone, it was so perfect with Hakeem Warg and then Melo as your baseline flankers over there. You know what I mean? Look how long those arms were, and really locking down opponents. And then they could just score and do whatever they wanted to. And Jared McNamara and everything like that, bombing those threes. So and then he just went on to the championship because, in that NCAA tournament, there was a lot of hype on D Wade being the Cinderella guy and carrying Marquette, who's that? Dwayne Wade, because he didn't have the 5-star coming into anything. And Melo, you know, you made it to McDonald's All-American, but at the end of the day, you know, winning the championship and then get into the league and then like that classic draft, you know what I mean? And and he has the biggest what if, because the Detroit Pistons skipped over him and got Darko Milicic only because they were coming off a championship, and it was like, well, where was he going to fit in? And he was not going to get this much burn. It was just like, man, you just make that stuff work. You know what I mean? Like you figure that stuff out later, because history told us, wow, that turned into Sam Bowie. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a good segue to talk about that class. And what was that class of 2003?
Yes, sir.
Class of 2003. So let's talk about the class of 2003. Because I got the '03 pack, because the Jordan Brand athletes, Melo became a Jordan Brand athlete. And this was a particular model that did not hit regular retail. All right. I've actually told this story in some previous episodes, so go ahead and you look them up. Because we were talking about fakes and B grades and stuff like that. So technically, because of the way that the sole was glued together, I feel like there were other pairs that were in y'all. If you know anything about the 13s, that this area would bleed on, especially that new buck uppers and things like that, and the suede uppers in different colors. There was like a red and cherry or whatever one, and then the burgundy one would bleed. So if you know, you know. All right. So this is B grade. All right. You can see it. There's the B. There's the stamp, the official stamp. Okay. Now, what is the production date on these? This is January 2018. All right, January 2018. And part of the story that I told is I got the box. You can see the stamp on the box right there. Boom. So this is B grade. That doesn't make it bad. That just said something happened at the production level, and then they just flooded the outlets with these. All right. So had the pleasure of scooping these, and of course, this is the Oak Hill black, yellow, and red colorway, inspired by the school that he graduated from for high school. All right. And there was a whole pack from Jordan Brand, from Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook that had the colors of their high school teams. All right, so just wanted to show that off. Yeah, still got the sticker on the holograms just to let you know it's real, that we keep them fresh and so clean over here. But yeah, and then just having the pleasure of working corporate retail and being able to that Mellow 1.5, you know what I mean, that Mellow 5.5, and oh my goodness, that's my favorite Mellow 5.5. And like that ad campaign that went to go to our some of our stories and Instagram page as well. And you'll see that the whole promo kit that was exclusive to Baltimore. I work for a Baltimore-based retailer. All right, so we got exclusives, just exclusive promo CDs from DJ Clue, the whole storybook from the campaign. Like, these were giveaways that we were given for grassroots campaigns. So if you weren't in the area, you didn't get it. All right. Same goes for one of my favorite stories of the Mellow 2. All right. I should have already brought those out, but we'll do a special reveal on them. But I have the original Mellow 2s. All right. The Denver Nuggets colorway. All right. That meant with those, that was a regional release that was only in like 3 cities. All right. And one of them was Washington, D.C. And at the time, it was what? US Air Arena or so
MCI maybe.
yeah, peace. Yeah, no, that's MCI. Yes, that was MCI Center. Because I was still in college. All right, so I left school, drove straight into the city. And at the time, the team store at the arena was Modell's. Okay, so the team store was a Modell's. All right, so I feel this is what I'm talking about. It doesn't make me old because the story's old. I feel old because of the level of culture of you had to be there and you had to be in the know. We didn't have all this internet notifications and social media to tell you that this stuff existed. So you had to really be in the know to know where it was at and when and what was going on. So I went, got up super early, drove in, got there, 7 in the morning, and I was the third person in line. And they actually let us in to the lobby part, and I remember sitting on the floor, being third in line, and then just sitting there like, wow, I didn't believe that I was going to be this close to the front. You know what I'm saying? And then what happened was, dog, I'm not lying. By the time the store opened at 10, there wasn't even 20 people. It might have been a dozen. You know what I mean? And then we were allowed to buy 2. So imagine me being the third in line and then getting 2 size 12s. And then they're just like, here, and then I just walked out. You know what I mean? So like, you'll never get that experience again for something that exclusive. You know what I mean? So that always stuck with me. End up giving the other pair to my best friend. And that's just how it goes. You know what I mean? And so I just wanted to make sure I told that story too, because that's always that might be like the last time I camped or sat and really went for a shoe. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, always a pleasure to be a part of some of the grassroots campaigns. And another slept on Mellow that I loved at the time, and I'm bringing it out here too. All right, is the Mellow M4. The Mellow M4, because this one he attempted to give homage to the DMV roots and put this back heel wrap is supposed to be this soft foam posit. All right. This also was ahead of its time because it came with an ankle sleeve that was separate. All right. I wore those things out because I would wear them with other shoes when I balled for, because it was like, you couldn't even find like compression ankle
Mhm.
support. You only had the McDavid lace ups at the time. You didn't have that soft, slip in, compression for your ankle that you could really move around with. So the fact that these shoes came with it, always thought that was amazing. And then it just has like the street map of Baltimore and a couple calls to his neighborhoods on there. So again,
They had the Grim Goblin colorway too.
yeah. So you had the original Flight Posit. It's more like Flight Posit Gold, Green Goblin, and then the Eggplant. This is the Eggplant, aka the Ravens. You know what I'm saying? Got a little purple stitching on here too. Look, it's like I wore these shoes. Hey, you know what I'm saying? And these were, look at that. These were comfortable. You know what I mean? Got that retro, mellow logo over there, so got the call outs to Robert Courts, John Eager Howard, Mount Royal, the Cage, and Cloverdale. All right. So again, just attention to details, paying homage to the DMV with the phone posits. Like, you got to be conscious. You got to want to represent when you give this type of feedback, and it shows up in the shoe. And before we go, I got to show off one more Mellow that I personally feel was a game changer. All right, but it was super slept on. I got these on sale, but this is the Mellow M13. So this was around the latter side of his career that you were talking about, where he was with a couple other teams, Rockets. After he got blackballed a little bit, where he didn't even have a team, and then Rocket, Thunder Rockets, Blazers, all places that they wanted the name, but they didn't want him to be him. You know what I mean? Which was weird, where I think he was a victim of the analytics wave, where all of a sudden they just want him to go stand in the corner and shoot, but that's not his game. But this particular shoe is super comfortable. And what I want to point out is this was one of the first flight speed whoops, plates from Jordan brand. All right. And if you know anything about the flight plates from Jordan brand, these operated like super zoom. Okay. And we've talked about in other episodes where that zoom air feels like that old school DMX, Reebok DMX cushioning, where you can feel it as you rock your forefoot. This is why I love this shoe. It is super comfortable. I got the bread edition. It looked like the Jordan 11s a little bit here, you know what I mean? But this was a very slept on shoe. People always ask me about what is this when they see it, but they don't understand. It's the Mellow M13. All right.
And speaking of Tony, him not getting the credit he deserved, I should have looked it up because you just triggered me with a story as well. Melo does not get credit that he deserves for, I will call it, the pandemic wave of the peak of the ones. And those New York Knick ones and the Mellow ones, the black and gold Mellow ones, and then the New York Knick ones that had the New York Knick colors, before the one really exploded, those were the ones that really sparked everybody in liking ones in which resale went nuts, and people even over, the mid ones, depending on kid size and so forth. So that few years that the one was the one for you to flip, Mello was a great part of the infancy of that happening too, that no one talks about in the community at all. So shout out to those New York Knick ones, one of my favorites, and also the Mellow ones, the black and gold joints, definitely.
Oh yeah. And I feel like, it's paying homage. There's so many different categories, and they're like, me personally, like, I adopted a piece of his game into mine. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like, you know, the way he operated without dribbling him was amazing, especially the second half of his career, or the Knicks version, because he was just going to rack on anybody in Denver. But he was so much more efficient when he was in New York. And, I just want to call that out because I literally included it in my workout routine. because when I do my court basketball routine, I added I made the name and I just gave him the homage. Like, so everybody talks about this. These trainers out here, if they use his name, this is I said it. You know that the Melo reverse pivot. All right,
Mm,
Melo is king of
mm.
the triple threat, and if you study his game, like his triple threat to just jab, 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 you know, and never dribble and just get you to jump all over the place, and then he'll just raise up. He's always ready, and in the way that he keeps his body and he moves, he's always it is the truest triple threat that I've ever witnessed. You know what I'm saying? And it's and it's that face up where you're backing them down, right? Because you got to start with the almost the MJ lean post up, right? And then he'll either swing through like reverse pivot through, or he'll do it behind his head, reverse pivot, but the ball never comes down, so he'll reverse pivot right into you. You got to clear out a little space with that elbow, and he might just rise. Or, you know, but if he has it on his hip, there's probably a jab step coming. Yeah, his jab step was like D Wade's pump fake. You know what I mean? That deadly. You know what I'm saying? So that reverse pivot to just jab, get you off of him. And I just love watching him in the gym teaching the next generation, teaching his son, Cayenne. And then now we've seen Cayenne grow up, you know, and, you know, I wanted to wrap
Telling
up.
his dad he'll smoke him.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because he's like, hey, you know, I'm better than him at 16 than he was. And like, you kind of supposed to be. You got, you know what I'm saying? And, like, I like Cayenne. I was following him a little bit. Was like, hey, how come we didn't make it to be a you know, McDonald's All American? How you the number one player in New York, but they don't give you those credentials. So you know, as soon as he didn't get the McDonald's All American, I could see you know some fire in his eyes. And then he won like the next tournament. He was the MVP. And then I had the pleasure of sitting and watching with my own eyes the 2025 Jordan Brand Classic. Had the pleasure of that being hosted in DC. So showed up and wow. I really wanted to see some of the Boozer twins and a couple other people, you know, but Cayenne was on the marquee and he got the MVP. And like he made the first bucket as soon as the tip, and then it was one pass and boom, straight to the basket layup. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, he focused. He focused. And even the announcer was just like, you know, they kept calling out the record that his dad, Carmelo, because he was there, him and Lala were there, and they were calling out like his Melo scoring record. You know, you got to get 19 more to beat your dad. You got to get 19 more. And then, so he was coasting, and then their team was down by like, they were getting dubbed in the first half because he was on the team with Carlos Boozer's son. You know what I mean? So you thinking that they about to run it, and they were getting waxed. But then the third quarter came, and Cayenne went off. Okay, you know, and we had all the top talent, other McDonald's All Americans in the game. He was going at him. He was going at him. Okay, and then I think he hit like 6 threes or something like that, and like I swore like three of them were in a row. You know what I'm saying? And they were just like, here again, you know, and sidestep three. You know what I mean? So, and then they came back, and once they took the lead, they didn't look back. And then at the end of the game, you know, they unzipped the wardrobe bag. There was no MVP trophy, and Melo brought out a leather, you know, MVP Jordan Brand jacket and placed it over his shoulders. You know, I think that's you know that's some of these moments that you just got to be there. It's a moment in time, and really, you know, that legacy torch, you know, being passed. So I can't wait to see, you know, full circle from everything we talked about because Cayenne's going to Syracuse. All right. And they got there was another dude that's going to Syracuse that was in the game too. And it was just like, what y'all about to do next year? You know what I mean? So I know I'll be tuned in to some more Syracuse basketball next year to see the next generation of the Anthony family. But salute to Carmelo Anthony, first ballot Hall of Fame. All right, Jordan Brand athlete. He's got the podcast going on, all these, you know, business ventures. Love to see the post career blossoming for anybody. But Melo, you know, definitely is a generational talent. And you know, just fortunate to, you know, be around and be alive and coming up during this time period. Because again, that draft class with him, LeBron, and D Wade and Chris Bosh, like it was supposed to be Melo and Bosh. I mean, it was supposed to be Melo instead of Bosh in the super team. You know what I mean? And it didn't work out. You know, they were
And I,
gonna
I
go
was
to.
hoping you would mention that because now, in case the audience does not know, you being at that time a huge Heat fan, and you're definitely since grassroots a LeBron fan. I have to ask you how many you think they would have won if they went to four straight with Melo, Wade, and LeBron at that time. I say 3 out of 4. But
Well,
if you're
I
going to tell me
mean,
4 out of 4, that puts them, I think, in the category of Bulls, Celtics, Lakers, because winning 4 straight, I don't care what era, is just huge in any sport.
well, the asterisk says what team are they on? You know what I'm saying? Because if it was gonna be Melo, part of the nostalgia of the story says that LeBron and D Wade were gonna go to New York to meet
Mm,
him there. You know what I mean? Everyone wasn't going to Miami. You know what I mean? And then that was around the Knicks messed it up because they just threw money at Amari Stoudemire and grabbed him. You know what I mean? And they didn't wait the extra time to load up. To get everybody else. So if they're in New York, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
mm.
But if they're in Miami, where they had that sound structure, they was doing military camp, training camp and stuff like that. So I
He
feel
caught
like
you.
I feel like you know. Well, what did they win? 2 out of 4 in with the group that they had. I
Yeah,
think
but
they
they went
get
to 4 straight.
they
You got to
don't
respect
lose
that.
to
They went to four
Dallas
straight.
in the first year. Maybe San Antonio and a young Kawhi Leonard comes back and they just don't get to repeat because that was a tough run for the Spurs. But they don't lose to Dallas. I know that
Mm,
much with Melo. They don't lose to Dallas with it. Even with LeBron, you could do the same thing. You know what I mean? Where everyone says he didn't show up. No, he just didn't take over. He showed up. He just didn't take over. He just went through some motions and D Wade was carrying everybody. And then D Wade had to say, "This is your team, LeBron." But that would have been Melo wouldn't have been having that. Melo would have, yeah, nah. And then with Dirk and all those other that Mavericks team had Sean Marion, like they had like a whole front court. You know what I mean? So if you had Melo to do that bully ball, they would just wear him down. They would wear him down because remember LeBron wasn't in the post at that time. So
mm-hmm.
and they would had like Eric Dampier. They didn't have their full like backups, you know what I'm saying? Like they had in the Joel Anthony or whoever, you know what I'm saying? So they didn't have the full reinforcements in that first year. But I'd give them 3 out of 4, and just give them that first year against Dallas that wasn't gonna happen.
Understood.
Yeah. So I think it's a good place to put a pin in it. Just to salute to Carmelo Anthony, Hall of Famer. Just telling some more stories. We could keep going. We have plenty of stories. Just giving that clarity over popularity and showing homage. And sparking up that nostalgia like we like to do here at the Soul Material Podcast. All right. So for another episode in the books for season 5, it's the Soul Material Podcast. And I'm T Mark the Street Shark signing off.
And the OGEO, until next time, peace to you. Until next time.
Peace.
Sneaker business talk. It's the Soul Material Podcast.